people are stuck in the place that they're in largely because of the fact that they're not around people that challenge them. And it's not that they don't know those people don't challenge them, it's that they're scared to be alone.
I am going to make a personal commitment to execution over perfection.
Right now, my company is making, over $200,000 a month.
If you give me a piece of music, what am I going to play? And you put that same, piece of music or elements of music in the hands of Michael Jackson, what is that going to create? Little becomes much when you place it in the hands of the master.
So welcome to another edition of Believers Breathe, the podcast, where the aim is to help people embrace self-awareness, self-confidence, and self-worth. And the way that I do that is I sit down with proven leaders, entrepreneurs that have reached high levels of success, not just because of skill set, but because of mindset. And today I got a guest with me who I think is, he's gonna help a lot of people get to that next level. I'll say that this is one of the most intellectually gifted people that I know. And I definitely feel honored to know him. I met him through a very, very smart friend of mine. And this smart friend was like, bro, I got this smart friend that you need to meet. And so this is Jimmie Strong. And so I think today I'm gonna unpack and allow him to unpack a lot of value for a lot of people that can answer a lot of questions to help you take your business, your ideas, whatever it is that you wanna do to the next level. So I appreciate you, bro.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So obviously you're Jimmie Strong, and a lot of people know you as attorney, Esquire Jimmie Strong, but I do want to allow you to tell the people exactly who you are.
Okay, man, I appreciate that. And I have to start off with a shout out to that friend, Ali Osman, who we have to get on here, finance director at Showtime. And he's been Showtime way before that.
For sure.
So I met this person and he summed me up. So I'll use his summation. And he also fixed me really quickly. He said, look, Jimmy, man, I know you and I know you've, done some good things, but you might want to not be a walking resume.
Yeah.
It might help if you sit back and allow us to tell people who you are. And that fundamentally changed me. It wasn't all about putting the nuts and bolts together that you had learned throughout and your elevator pitch and trying to put all that out there. Sometimes it's wise to be around people who will speak well of you. And that's how you get introduced to the Jeremy Perrys of the world. Because people know you can step back long enough for them to set you up.
That's good.
And that has been life for me. Other people setting me up. I'm originally from the Mississippi Delta. Spent a lot of time growing up with grandparents and getting that kind of old soul, but also really seeing what hard work really, really is. And my wife says that I love to tell this story, and I do because it's true. She doesn't believe it, but I really did get a chance to shuck some corn and to plant some butter beans and to pick some greens. And I really did get a chance to play around doing outdoor things with my granddad and seeing what that hard work really was. And it's different when you don't have to do it, but it still teaches you something when you do it and when you meet people who did have to do it to set you up. And that early start, learning what hard work was and what hard work wasn't, helped me. Because in a classroom where my mom had told me, look, you don't make anything but A's. I've checked you, no learning disabilities. So you go in there and you make these A's. If you had some challenges, I would make an exception. And that really set me up for success academically because I could work hard at it and not think it was hard work. And then I could excel and get the benefit of having that confidence. And my grandmother had taught me how to memorize everyone's birthday, how to memorize different things, phone numbers that she would forget. So that memory combined with the willingness to work hard really helped with academics. And I think that gave me a mindset that propelled me into business. My mom helped by getting me into case competitions very early. So in middle school, I'd done case competitions, business case competitions for Viacom and the National Basketball Association and Black Entertainment Television. So I knew about the different disciplines in business. She put me in things that, being from the Mississippi Delta, I wasn't supposed to get exposure to. She put me in the Black Ski Club in Memphis. So we would go around the country finding places to ski out of Memphis, Tennessee. And those people who had parents who were doctors and lawyers and entrepreneurs were the kids that I had an opportunity to be around. So I was taking this hard work and I was taking this ability to memorize just about anything and this exposure. And I was a part of the Mid-South Junior Golf Association. I was a part of all these things. And I would always think like, man, I don't have the easy setup where I can go to practice and play basketball and learn 5-on-5, but I can dribble and shoot and do all these individual skills really, really well. But she was taking that time on the weekends to let me do golf, taking that money and investing in skiing, taking that money and investing in business case competitions. And I was like, man, how much further along could I be in basketball or football or something if I were able to go to practice during the week, but she works, so I got to be in some type of care environment or with an aunt or someone. But it was creating all that stuff that got me further ahead in life. And that type of understanding of what networking was enabled me to go to Morehouse and say, hey, you made a mistake when you didn't give me a full scholarship. So I'm here to tell you about the mistake. I'm here to ask if there's anything I can do to get a full scholarship. Because I understand that these people might have received one and you just might have made an oversight. Because I'm certain there are other schools who wouldn't make this oversight. And they laughed at me, but they told me what I could do. And I did it, and they gave me a full ride. And that Morehouse experience enabled me to see myself in so many different lights. Being someone who grew up and went to schools in Memphis, you think you know everything. You think you're fresher than everybody, cooler than everybody, and that the way we do it is the way that's
the way
right.
it's supposed to be.
Right. And you know what we label you as is the label.
Yeah.
If we label you as lame in second grade, you probably gonna be lame in high school. If we label you as cool, then you probably gonna be cool later. If you struggling to get the new Jordans, that's a problem for you. So you better clean the ones you got, because we gonna roast you. Like, we just do different things here. And Morehouse was good for me because I saw people who were cool for other reasons that I didn't understand.
That's good.
I saw people who were cool because they were smart, who were cool because their parents had been at Morehouse and grandparents had been at Morehouse, and who were blessed into situations for different reasons. And I met people who were able to undress me and humble me, and me having these different things that I put together. I just wanted to grab something from everyone. And I wanted to be the best at everything that all these other people were the best at. And seeing that and getting that exposure and understanding attire, how to dress, not just for success, but to manipulate the mindset of the environment. To dress in a way that says, if I have these cap toes and these wingtips, it says a certain thing. If I have a suit that fits a certain way, it says a certain thing. If I have something that's not too flashy, it says a certain thing. If I have the staples, and then I take that mix of different things I know how to do and put a pattern on it that fits the environment, now I've excelled and I've played around with your standard in a way that shows that I'm a standard setter. So now you have to ask me a question before I ever say anything, just because I entered the room the appropriate way. And then once I knew what was appropriate, I could put something on top of that that made me the standard bearer or setter. So when I went to Harvard Law School, Morehouse had already prepared me for everything. When I went to school at the International Academy in Rome, I was already prepared to do what I need to do in international business and marketing. When I went to the University of Maryland's Graduate School of Policy, I was already prepared to excel, not based on anything about those books, but based on everything about the understanding of environments and people and relationships.
That's good.
And that is what brought me to my current role, where I mix law and business and all these disciplines, because I know it's all about people. If a person has a problem, they want a solution. And that is what I'm in the business of providing. And I've been at my current law firm, Baker Donaldson, for 7 years, and I practice in the areas of mergers and acquisitions, international business, as well as securities, primarily on private company securities things, but I've worked on initial public offerings for companies, for a REIT, for a bank, done securities filings. And it's because I want to be able to speak to a problem, even if I'm not going to be the direct key typer on solving that problem, but I know it, I have exposure to it, and I can now say, hey, here's the best at this, here's the best at that. And at Baker, I get 691 people who are truly the best at a thing, and I get a chance to sell their abilities and to sell my abilities.
That's good, man. That's good. Now, as that person who introduced us did, he told you don't have to be a walking resume. You can let people speak for you. So I'm going to take this time to just interject the fact that you didn't start on full scholarship at Morehouse, but you were the person giving that speech on the day you graduated. And the reason you were giving that speech is because you graduated as the valedictorian of your class. And I think that speaks volumes to coming into a situation, an environment, manipulating it, and setting that standard for yourself. So hats off to you for that. But I do want to talk about what is that mindset that takes you from being that kid from Mississippi by way of Memphis to Atlanta and kind of going into Morehouse and shaking things up and being number one in your class. Like, what type of mindset and like, how did you make that happen? How did you stay up late at night? How did you avoid or incorporate like college life into becoming number one in your class?
I got off to a great start, and I don't know if it was by choice or by force. So I walked in and I immediately sought affirmation. I ran to be my dorm council president, and I lost. And the person I lost to, I thought I shouldn't have lost to, and I thought I should have won hands down. I went to everyone's room. I asked everyone for any problem that they had that I could solve. And then I realized that when people voted, some of the very people whose problems I was already working on solving were outside, distracted, if you will, and did not vote. And others had better things to do than show up to the election. And I probably could have requested a runoff because at Morehouse, all elections have to be won by greater than majority. So when the vote is split, and some of the vote was split because other people were running when I was going to solve their problems as well. And it just made me think like, man, what about consensus building? So this person who won probably should have lost hands down, but they were able to build a consensus and understand voter turnout. They were able to understand some strategic things, and rather than request even a runoff, I just sat back and I took that as a sign like, you know what? If they can't get it, if they can't see it, in my sour grapes, I'm going to control what I can control. I'm going to come in here and have a 4.0, and I'm going to kill. So it gave me an intensified passion for the thing that I could control, controlling the controllables. So I put on a suit every day, going to class. By the end of the first semester, I was teaching certain classes because teachers thought I was just that serious. So by the end of my sophomore year, I had gained a reputation for academic excellence. And then I studied abroad the second semester of my sophomore year. So when I came back for my junior year, I'd already established that academic reputation. So I didn't walk into the classroom with a B working up to an A or down to a C. I started off in teachers' mindsets with an A. So it was presumed that the work I would submit would be A. And I compounded that by saying, if I'm ever not doing A work, please let me know because I intend to be the valedictorian. So I started saying freshman year, I'm the valedictorian of this class. And that got me in the academic position that ultimately led to my being valedictorian. That cool. Loss. Guys saying, look, let me go ahead and humble you. And I was doing some just blasphemy. I put myself on a picture beside Martin Luther King Jr. I put myself on a picture with like different people at our sister dorm at Spelman, like just all around, I was just doing the most, not understanding really complex things that are associated with politics. And I never had to run for office again after that loss. I was always appointed the president or the poll mark or whatever else.
Gotcha.
Just by virtue of understanding defeat.
Gotcha. That's good. So you mentioned that currently you're working with mergers and acquisitions. I do want to like staple this to the common person and like help us to put that in our household. Like give us an example of what that means, how we've seen it unfold. We may not have known it was unfolding, but like, can you give us a real world, maybe big time examples of mergers and acquisitions?
I can. So basically I buy and sell companies, and I assist the person buying or the person selling, the company buying or the company selling. When you're assisting a company buying another company, you are digging into that company that is being sold to understand its bits and pieces, if it has any dirty, dark secrets, if it has anything that you need to unveil to say we shouldn't buy this, or we can buy this for cheaper because we've got to fix this problem, or it's actually not worth what they say it's worth. One example of that right now is SunTrust Bank is no longer SunTrust. They were a part of a merger with BB&T. So now BB&T and SunTrust are together Truist, and they're working hard to market themselves as Truist now. So that's a common example of something you might have a debit card for that has now become a part of something else. You're bringing together the disciplines of consulting, of high-level accounting, with the disciplines of banking and the management of money at a high level to take the two things and make them one big, bad animal that can do all of those things.
That's good. That's good. So when you go in and you're studying and researching these companies, is there like a checklist of things you're looking for? Are you the person that goes into that room to say, this is what you told me, or you believe that your company is valued at? But actually, when we did research, this is what we found out. Like, are you sitting across from these people making these decisions? What goes into that research? And how do you unpack all of the layers to find out, like, this is what this company did in 1984 that nobody knows about, and it could affect what we're doing in 2020?
Right. So the answer is it's always a team effort, and it's not just the lawyers. So before it ever gets to the lawyers, in many instances, unless someone has been a client a long time, it'll get to an investment banker for the seller. And that investment banker will try to clean that company up, shine it up really nicely, and then present it to a buyer. And what happens is that buyer will either come to the lawyer, or the lawyer and the lawyers for the sellers will be ready to provide certain information. And what they'll say is, okay, present me with the request for due diligence. And then I'll use a due diligence request list to request things about the organization, any lawsuits, any regulatory issues, any security breaches, anything that they have in the way of intellectual property. And I'll look at the different categories of intellectual property to make sure they have the appropriate filings. I'll look and I'll ask questions. And these due diligence requests ultimately dovetail into the purchase agreement. And that purchase agreement will have things called representations and warranties. So essentially, you represent that you have provided me all the names of your company's subsidiaries, and they're all listed here. You represent that you've never had a lawsuit in these jurisdictions. You represent and warrant that you have never had a security breach. If you have had any of these things, please disclose them on this disclosure schedule. So then I get another round of looking through what they've provided. And if any of the things that you say in these representations and warranties are untrue, you agree that we'll escrow these funds here, and I can avail myself of those funds to fix the issue you lied to me about. And you indemnify me for any additional damages over and above those. So you seek protection and you negotiate these provisions back and forth to put your client in the best position for success.
So I'm assuming this takes a while.
It does.
Okay. Good deal. Now, you also mentioned being involved with Securities IPO. Again, like, bring that into our household. What does that mean? I know a couple of years ago, a lot of people saw Snapchat going public.
Yes.
Everybody wanted to get in. Then they didn't do as well as people thought. What exactly does IPO mean?
Okay.
What does that mean to the average consumer? And then I guess, what is your relationship with it?
Okay. So an IPO is an initial public offering. It means we are taking our equity that is currently owned by private citizens or companies, individuals or companies, and we're saying we're going to give anyone, anywhere, the opportunity to purchase some piece of this company. This company is so marketable. It's so scalable that we actually want to raise money from the world. We want to raise more money so we can do more things to create more value for you. Or we're so valuable that you want a piece of what we have because we've already scaled. We've already expanded to numerous markets with numerous products, and now we're offering you an opportunity to participate. Do you think we're going to ultimately do this better and be valued at more dollars per share? Or are you going to be out of the market for us, thus driving our share value down? So to the average person, it means you get a chance to participate in a company that you think is going to do well in the future. Or you get a chance to say, I can look and see everything important about your company on the SEC's website in their EDGAR database. Any company that is public, you can look at their quarterly reports. You can look at a lot of information under the hood about that company. You can see who their management team is. You can see what they're buying, what they're selling, what they're producing. You can see what their plans are for the future. And these things are current reports called 8Ks. It's where they report something that happens right after it happens.
Okay.
10Qs, quarterly reports, and 10Ks, annual reports. And these things have different levels of information baked into them. And I've been a part of preparing those documents, as well as a part of saying, hey, guys, we're at a time now where we want to open ourselves up to be, publicly traded, meaning members of the public can now buy and sell our stock.
That's good. That's good. Now, before I go on to this next question, I do want to say he's not a financial advisor. All right. Let's be clear on that. But I know a lot of people, especially in the Black community now, are getting to the place to where they want to be more hands-on with this opportunity to buy into companies. You got apps out there like Robinhood. You can go get on E-Trade, and you can do these things yourself. What are your thoughts on getting into that space without the help of a financial advisor and kind of taking those risks on your own?
So I would highly recommend reading more about people who have been successful doing that very thing. I would never discourage people, but I would say even the people who are the best at that very thing value diversification, meaning they might have some money that they allow a financial advisor to manage. They might have some money that they manage themselves. They might have some money that they invest directly into companies that are private companies, not publicly traded. They might have some money that they put into a big insurance policy. They might have some money that they invest in themselves. So think about things in terms of your risk tolerance and in terms of your desire for diversification, and then really read and study about that before you engage in it, because you'll find that the best in this business are not necessarily the innovators. They're the ones with the most information about who they should copy first.
So everything that we aspire to do has been done before, essentially.
Right.
And it's been done at a high level.
Correct. And I would say when you really learn about a thing, that's where you can innovate. When I really learned about entities and what they do, then I could learn how to better form an entity. I could bring my ingenuity. There's a professor, the first Black headmaster of a house at Harvard. His name is Ron Sullivan, and he is a legal innovator. He's a criminal law professor, has headed up the public defender's office in D.C., which is one of the most coveted positions in law, and now is a professor at Harvard Law School, headmaster at Harvard, and He told me, when I go into these meetings, I am able to speak differently because I come from a different place. If all they know is Western law, and I hit them with Western law, law from the Far East, Swahili law, and we talk about a concept, and I say, oh, that's a rudimentary principle of Swahili law. So it's not deep. It's not hard to understand why this should be the outcome. It's just I've looked beyond the current context. So because we often come from a different context, when I form an entity for you, I will form it differently than someone else could form it for you, even if we've been to the same places and learned the same things at the same schools.
That's exposure. That's exposure. All right, so going into forming those entities for people, I really want to unpack a lot of information that I know entrepreneurs have in terms of what is an LLC, what is an S corp, what does it mean to trademark, what is copyright, what are all these terms, this lingo that I hear thrown around, but I'm not really sure what it means, and I'm not really sure what it means for me at the point I'm at. I know for me, I had an experience to where I formed a nonprofit organization, and I received an email from a company that had a similar name to my organization. And essentially they said, when we search the web, we see your name pop up first. And because of that, we're gonna allow you some time to take this website down because we have a federally trademarked registration on this name. It's not the same name, but it's close enough to where people are confusing us. And that was like my introduction into trademarking and what that meant. So if you could kind of unpack what is trademarking, and then let's throw that up against what copyright is, because for the longest, I used those terms interchangeably. And I know a lot of people are doing that, but they're filed completely differently. They cover different things. So yeah, just unpack that for us.
So I wish you would have called me because
It was so long ago.
here's what should have happened.
Okay.
You should have told them, I appreciate your reaching out to me. However, I would have appreciated you reaching out for a coexistence agreement much more. So rather than asking me to cease and desist, because you're right, our names are not the same. Your mark and my name are not the same. However, I understand the issues this could present for you. And I'm willing to enter into a coexistence agreement for the right price to make sure that I operate in my space, you operate in your space. I am not responsible for the quality of your search engine optimization.
That's what it was.
Mine is going well.
Yeah.
And I thank you for affirming that. However, I will not be honoring this cease and desist request, but I am open to a conversation about a coexistence agreement to ensure that anything that might be confusingly similar to your mark, which my name is not, does not manifest in the future.
That's good.
So that's
Thank
what I
you
would.
for that.
Okay. So trademark is unique in that a lot of people think I want to get a trademark to protect myself, and it does protect you, but that's not what the government intended, or it's not the government's primary intent. The primary intent is to protect the consumer. Trademark identifies source. So for Coca-Cola, for example, Coca-Cola has so much brand value and it has so much meaning to the consumer that the consumer drinks it never fearing getting sick, never fearing any harm coming, never fearing the can spontaneously combusting. But if I am a new manufacturer of drinks and I don't have appropriate approvals or clearances and I'm just trying this out of my garage and I use Coca-Cola, and I use the same color scheme and cursive lettering as Coca-Cola, that endangers the consumer because I have not taken all the precautions that the source of the thing to which my thing is confusingly similar has taken. So trademark protects the consumer, the consuming public, by identifying the source of the thing. Tangentially, as the source of a thing, you get that protection by having registered that trademark with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So trademark is simply the identification of source and pursuing registration for a certain thing, for a certain name, for a certain image, because it tells the consumer about the source of the thing and gives them the source of trust that they put in this thing.
So with that, they have a certain expectation. If I see Coca-Cola, I know it's trademarked. I see the little R, or
Right.
I have an expectation of their product.
Right.
That's good. That's good to know.
And we get the protection when we pursue that trademark because it says, look, don't do anything confusingly similar because my consumers come to expect a certain thing from me. So I'm going to ask you to stop any activity that confuses your thing with my thing and in turn confuses consumers. Copyright.
Okay.
Copyright protects the expression of an idea. So you copyright the way you express ideas in a book. Copyright is somewhat narrow and thin protection because it's just the exact thing that I've reduced to tangible form. When I have a picture, I copyright that thing. I copyright the thing that expresses an idea, but the protection is just for the way that idea is expressed. So if someone else writes something similar, unless it is so similar that it's plagiarism, my copyright does not enable me to go and do something against them.
That's good. Now, how are these registered? So you spoke about the USPTO with trademarks. Exactly, like what is their process for somebody to set that up?
Okay. So, and there are great questionnaires and Q&A documents on the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website, uspto.gov, that will walk you through how to register a trademark. And by and large, you can do it. And a lot of people lose confidence when they have to describe the image that they're trying to trademark, because that can be tough. But if you look at a few examples, you can even work through that. So the trademark process is that online filing. Then an examiner will reach out if there are any issues or questions about what you are seeking to register. And you'll have correspondence with the examiner. You'll be given a timeline to respond, and you'll keep that going. Trademark is not something you can get to protect yourself before you use a thing. A lot of people confuse that. You will actually go through more expense if you pursue the trademark on the front end because you will have to file what's called an intent to use application and then file later saying, I actually am using it now. So typically you want to at least have on a website or somewhere, even if it's not, being blasted to the public, that thing that you're seeking trademark protection for. Copyright is a bit different in that filing process is with the Library of Congress. They house all of that information on that side. And as I mentioned, it's where creative works are registered. So processes are not so difficult that you can't go online and find out how to do it, but you would be wise to seek counsel because you might miss some of the value. I have a weed eater, and I didn't know until my father-in-law showed me that if you bump the weed eater against the ground, it'll make more wire come out. I was literally pulling the cap off of my weed eater and pulling out more wire every time my novice self with the weed eater ate up all the stuff, ate up all the wire. And that saved me so much time seeing that. I also did not know that I did not have to wind up the wire and put it in and weave it through these tight holes, that if I just pull my wire through and pulled it halfway, there's a twist knob on it that will take this long wire and wind it up inside the weed eater for me. So if you do not seek a professional or read a manual, you will misuse a thing. You will misuse that trademark or copyright process if you don't actually find out all the benefits of the thing that you're about to acquire.
That's good. So at what point in the entrepreneurial journey should someone say, I'm at that point, I want to protect myself? Should they do it from the jump? Should they wait until they got like revenue coming in? Should they wait until they get that email from their other company? Like at what point in the journey should someone say, all right, I got to do this. I got to make this happen?
The answer is yes. So when you're serious about a thing, utilize the tools and people at your discretion to really get the value out of what you want to do. If you have a company and you say, I'm going to actually set aside some time, well, if you have an idea that you want to become a company, I'm going to set aside the time to understand my vulnerabilities. If someone is not willing to have that conversation with you, and be generous and giving of your consideration to that person's time, but that person, if they're the right service provider for you, should be willing to have at least a conversation about when they would be appropriate to come on board and about what their initial costs are going to be at such time. So I'll always have that conversation with people. Hey, you're really ready for me, but I know you're a little tight. You don't want to spend that money because you think it's better served getting a logo. You think it's better served doing all these other things that I know to be second-tier needs, but they feel like first-tier needs to you. You want to go pay someone to write your website content. You want to go pay someone to do all these things. Then you want to come to me for free.
Back in.
And that makes me say, okay, here's a great opportunity for me to provide some guidance and say, actually, protection of you, your personal assets is probably key. So that's when you want, if you're engaged in an activity that could lead to a lawsuit, you want to seek, some type of entity. You want to form some type of entity so your liability stops at the assets and resources of that entity and not at your personal assets. So that's one place. On the revenue side, if you're making money, now you're asking a tax question. What entity helps me most based on the amount of money I make and how I make it? And if I use employees or just make it myself through my efforts. Now, what type of entity should I have, or should I have an entity at all from a tax standpoint? So you have asset protection, you have tax strategy optimization, and then you have signaling to the world. When I have an entity, does it say to my customers something different than if it's just me? Does it open the door to different customers and customer bases because now I look serious? Does it enable me to go and get some type of government contracting certification to avail myself of a set-aside based on gender, race, veteran status, having a small business? I probably can't do these things as a sole proprietorship. So I have to think about the different benefits I get from a thing and have a conversation with the different people who can help me establish that thing.
So with establishing those different things, I know most people run to LLC because that's what they hear in the streets, that's what they hear in the community, that's what everybody says, man, set up your LLC, man, you good. But if you could go more in depth to, one, what are the different entities that you can set up, and then what are some of the tax benefits to them? Okay,
so all of them are based on your individual situation. And there are at least two levels of considerations, federal and state. Then you have other considerations like employees or no employees. Am I married filing jointly? Am I going to have any dependents? Because those things will affect tax situation. So what we're talking about here is really, by and large, what do I benefit from based on a very generalized person when we weed out the specifics. So a limited liability company, or LLC, is the thing you will hear about frequently. In the state of Tennessee, they cost, in terms of filing, if you file online, $307.67. So that's a cost, right? Generally, someone setting that up for you, if you don't set it up yourself, and drafting the documents for you, an operating agreement. If it's just you, it'll be a single member operating agreement, which will be relatively simple. Typically, $1,000-ish for that. You should have some type of document, an organizational consent that says you're the member, whoever the organizer is, the organizer retiring if I organize it for you, or resigning as organizer, your officers if you're the sole officer. getting your EIN, which is free, on irs.gov/EIN, free to sign up for, but you do have to know what type of entity you're selecting so you can know which type of taxation you get. And that number and that organizational consent and that operating agreement and those articles of organization, the document you get when you file online, are what the bank will want to set up your bank account. Then you're kind of ready to go. If it's a multi-member LLC, you'll probably pay a little bit closer to $2,000 for those formation documents because it's between you and someone else.
Yep.
So it should speak to what happens in the event of death, divorce, bankruptcy, insolvency, or other involuntary transfer. Because when you get into business with me, you don't want to be in business with my wife.
True.
You don't want to be in business with anyone but me. So we have to be very careful to speak to all those situations and to what happens when we, if we have a 50-50 agreement, disagree. How do we work through that? How do we solve that? What are our impasse provisions? So those are the important things in the LLC context. They remain important in the corporation context, but they take shape in different documents. An LLC in Tennessee, a corporation in Tennessee, you file a charter to form it. That filing fee is cheaper, whereas a corporation is 300-ish. An LLC is 300-ish. Corporation carries 100, 200 filing fee. So it's cheaper to file the thing for. But then you look at franchise and excise tax at the state level. So what do you pay annually, or what do you pay off of the money you make to the state? So these are important things. This is where the CPA kind of comes in. But these are things that we can also look up and put on a chart. So you care with the corporation about what's happening with the different shareholders, if you have more than just one shareholder. And then you want to think, do I have any entities, or all my owners individuals? Because the thing that he also talked about was S corporation. S corporation is not really a corporation. It's a federal tax election. So the corporation, the LLC, you make that decision at the state level. And the S election, you make that decision at the federal level. You file what's called Form 2553, and that is when the corporation elects to be taxed as a partnership, meaning you're going to be taxed the same way that LLC was taxed. And you have two general types of taxation, single or pass-through taxation, or double. People often refer to it as corporation taxation. Pass-through taxation means the company made money up here, $100. At the end of the year, that $100 is deemed to go to its owners in proportion to their percentage interest. Pass-through. The money passed through the corporation directly to the owners. With the corporation, you have two levels of taxation. $100 made here, immediately taxed. So boom. Then the corporation decides at the end of the year if it wants to distribute income to its owners, then the money is passed through and taxed down here at the owner level as well. So you have taxation of the money once it's made by the company, and taxation when the money is distributed. Two taxation events. Some people say, why would anyone ever want that? Well, this taxation rate up here is not the same as your ordinary income rate on distributions down here. So it could be the blended rate is better. Or it could be that you want to do something called retained earnings. I don't want to be taxed on this company, let's say until year 3, year 4, year 5, when I built it up. So I don't want pass-through taxation because I've got to pay myself whatever money's made, and I can't retain those earnings without them being taxed. So up here, I'm taxed at a lesser rate than I would have been taxed down here, but I get to keep that money here until I say the company is ready to distribute that money and be taxed down here. So the company, not me, the company was taxed up here. Not me yet. I'm going to let the company build up its war chest over a few years, and then I'll make a distribution, maybe not of all of it. So I get to choose what I want to distribute and be taxed on down here.
And how do you choose that?
You choose that based on an understanding of your blended tax rates. Let's say you're going to be a W-2 employee. Well, the owner of an LLC cannot be a W-2 employee of that company. You have to take a guaranteed partner payment. So with a corporation, the owner can be a W-2 employee. So I don't need to distribute the money because I'm just taking a salary. And I'm taking a salary because I have other employees anyway that I pay salaries to. So it's better for me to just get the salary money, and then I know what I want to make in salary. And when the company is healthy enough to make distributions, that's additional money for me. So that's why you might consider one vehicle over another.
That's good. That's some good information. Hopefully that's going to help some people out.
Right.
Because I know a lot of people wrestle between, well, I just don't know what to do, but I know I need to do something.
Right. And then I guess I'll tell you the one cute distinction that a lot of people make. So with the S corporation, which is a corporation or an LLC, a lot of people don't know that with an LLC you can make an S election as well. But you have to file two things as opposed to one with the IRS. You have to first file a Form 8832, which makes an election to be taxed as a C corporation, a regular state corporation. Then you have to file a 2553, which is the election to be taxed as an S corporation. An S corporation is a term that we throw out, but what it really is an election to be taxed as a small business corporation. That's what it will say if you go to the IRS's website.
Gotcha.
And a small business corporation is one that gets passed through taxation as opposed to double taxation. That's all. And why you might want to do that? Well, in Tennessee, because of franchise and excise tax, if you can count on making between $125,000 and $175,000 and pay yourself a reasonable salary of, say, call it $75,000, well, what'll happen is this. As opposed to having an LLC and all that money, that call it $150,000, being taxed at your ordinary income tax rate, what you would do is you would say, as opposed, let's say your ordinary income tax rate is 30%. As opposed to paying 30% on $150,000, what you would do is if you said, I've got a reasonable salary of $75,000, you pay your ordinary income tax rate with that S corporation or S election on $75K. Call that 30%, right? So 30% of $75K, I paid that. Well, I can count on about $150, right? So now I've got $75 left, right? I made $150. $75 I paid my ordinary income rate on. The rest of this, I'm going to pay a rate in the teens. So now, as opposed to 30% of everything, I paid 30% of half, and I paid a rate in the teens on the other half because the self-employment tax falls off after I pay myself the reasonable salary. So now just straight ownership distributions, and I pay at a lesser rate.
So this is strategy. This is definitely some strategy.
And it's just a math problem. You get an Excel file, you say, if I'm this type of entity, where do I end up? And that's really what you want from your CPA. Hey, can you help me do this math problem? And the reason you bring a CPA in or someone who's knowledgeable of the different tax rates, because your state may be different, you might have different dependents, you might have different elections that you make, you might not take a standard distribution. So when you come to the lawyer, I have to make certain assumptions because I don't know everything about your tax situation, and I would never consider myself more qualified than a CPA to opine on someone's individual tax situation.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And so a lot of this work that we're talking about right now, you do with the company called The Advisory.
So often this right here at Baker Donaldson, what the advisory gives me an opportunity to say, hey, you know that I'm a lawyer, but you're really not needing my legal expertise. You really need some business expertise. And it allows me to step outside of the legal world and say, you understand that now we're doing business together. You understand that now I am actually going to be in the weeds. We're going to be talking strategy. We're going to be talking getting clients. We're going to be talking actual giving an opinion on whether I think this thing is good or bad based on the factors I see. We're going to be digging in and working together on those types of things. And often it is really just an advisory relationship that sets up the table for that legal thing that will be necessary.
Gotcha. All right, so let's role play just a little bit to find out about more what you do with the advisory, really unpacking, being strategic with business, gaining more clients, trying to assess whether a thing could actually work. When I walk into your office or on their phone call, what do you want to know? And I guess how is it that I bring my idea to you, and how do you give me feedback?
Okay. So the advisory, when we get into that type of conversation, it's normally a category of person who often has a lot of yes people. who doesn't have someone who's just gonna say, hey, here's the real. And my vetting for that is often making sure someone is beyond yes people. So I will work with someone for a bit just to understand them. And then if they really want the seriousness, it's a different level of relationship that says, okay, are you really committed to hearing what I think seriously? For example, I've worked with Floyd Mayweather. And in kicking off that relationship, I knew he wasn't ready to say, hey, I want to select you as my lawyer. Out of all these lawyers in the world, you're young. Surely these people I know and the people my people know have to be better than you, right? I definitely don't need you as a sports agent. I don't need a sports agent. I'm beyond that. So what is it that little old you can do for big old me? And that's where this idea of this advisory came from. This private client advisory that prepares someone for a more sophisticated level of service after getting to know me. And the way I talked to him was, well, champ, you're undefeated at what you do. You haven't taken a loss. When I entered the classroom and I entered negotiation settings and I entered academic environments to think through the things that we're going to talk about, I'm undefeated at what I do. Never lost, LeVar Ball. So understand that's why I'm here. I'm here to continue that with and for you. So when you ask me something, I'm not trying to lose now. I'm not trying to just tell you yes because you're you. I'm trying to really unpack and explore how I can really be helpful. Had a chance to do a similar thing with Jim Brown and his wife, Monique Brown. And just to sit down and talk, what he wants to know about is just all different. And my other vehicles don't necessarily allow me to give people that space. He doesn't want to vet me by understanding how good of a lawyer I am. Yes, he might throw me a trademark thing here or something there. But what he wants to do is see if I understand anthropology, the history of man, religion. See if I understand why I believe what I believe. See if I understand how these different things politically connect. See if I understand what kneeling means to him and can articulate what it means to me. We actually did Inside the NBA with Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley and Ernie Johnson and Shaquille O'Neal. And he wanted to talk before doing that. And this was before the Cleveland Cavaliers ring ceremony after they won their championship. And before I was qualified to walk to those different sets with him and enter those different rooms with him, he wanted to know who I was. And Baker Donaldson is not in the business of me spending time doing that thing. So I had to really say, okay, how do I create a vehicle that allows me to do that with people in advance of them being ready for services? And how do I formalize it so they know this isn't a game for me?
Wow. That's good, man. That's good. So when you go to these tables and you sit across from a Floyd Mayweather or you sit across from a Jim Brown, do you feel like you have to prove yourself to somebody that has created this legendary status to people that see them on TV or read about them? Or do you just feel like they're great at what they do, but I'm great at what I do?
I feel like I have to prove myself to everybody. I feel like I have to prove myself to my friends, to my family, to everybody. That's the way that I am wired. And it affects everything I do at all times. But it also challenges me to always do it with authenticity, to always be genuine about it, to always check all the things that are normally associated with proving oneself, and to really just prove myself. Like, boom, give me an opportunity to help you. Ask me that question. Call on me to do that thing. Come kick it. Like that motivates, drives me. So yes, when I get in front of them, I want to show like, yeah, I'm for real. I'm cold. I am inspired by that opportunity.
Really? So what is a conversation like with Floyd? Like what type of services? Because when I think Floyd, I think money, obviously, but I think he has access to so much, so many resources, so many people. Like, what could he be looking for?
So often, one, it's an honor to get the opportunity, right? But two, when you're working with people at that level, you're often guinea pigging and learning more things about what you can offer and provide. So when I worked with him, the answer wasn't what can I do, it was what can I do. Oh, this little skateboarder needs a contract? Boom, I'll put that together. This model needs a contract? I'll put that together. Parking ticket? Okay, I'll talk to your ticket guy and just see what we can do. Okay, it doesn't matter. And that's who I am. Just give me your problem, I'll find the solution. There's no task too big, no task too small. And having those relatively small tasks, but big asks. Hey, Floyd, what you want to do together? Which is a very open-ended question and challenge to them. And it's like, can we do something together? Just so you know I'm hungry and so I'm eager. Is there some opportunity? And for me, if the opportunity is just the small contract, just the meeting, just being at the house and conversing about your experience when you were in jail. You know, like, what was that like? How did you make friendships there? Who came to visit? Were you riding, playing cards? What do you guys do? How does it feel? Like, understanding, how are you wired as a person? Okay, this person is your ex, but her store just got broken into, and now you're the first one running with your jogging pants on to get over there and see what happened. Not sending somebody, you literally went. You know, what happened with this story? What happened with that story? Like, just getting a chance to be around and just see people as people while still maintaining my level of professionalism, but understanding that the personhood is what they have to connect with. Or, you know, often just the lack thereof, which motivated a different part of the business. So getting flown out to a fight, which is wonderful, right? And having tickets to a fight that other people want tickets to, and seeing Nick Cannon's name on my envelope scratched out and then saying Jimmie Strong, it's kind of, you know, it's like, that's kind of cool. But that lack of conversation and intimacy showed me that I don't need to go out for the fight. I need to get so cold that you call me to solve a problem. I'm not accepting any of that unless it is combined with intimacy that enables me to better my skill set or my family's well-being.
That's good. And so a lot of these people probably have been around yes men or yes women their whole life. Do you feel pressured to push back on ideas that they have?
No, I take them as I hear them. And if someone says, I want to do something, and that's a big piece of what the advisory is as well. I have a mother or a cousin or a brother or a friend. So I work with a Nashville and soon-to-be American legend named Mookie Betts.
Dog on the field.
And he is the most humble, nice young man you can meet. And sometimes he wants to help people. He wants to elevate his friends and put them in unique positions the way LeBron did. And sometimes that, you know, like manifests itself in something where it's not Jimmie the critic that needs to show up. It's Jimmie the mentor. How do I take each one of your friends and invest just as much time in them as in trying to build a relationship with you? So one of his friends, he takes calls with me and I try to help him understand the legal game. Another one of his friends runs a dental practice as that office manager in connection with a complex structure, and I want to make sure he feels supported. Another friend is a manager of talent, of athletes, and I want to make sure he feels supported. So that's a way to support Marcus Betts, Mookie Betts, by supporting his friends. And if they have a business deal together, it's not Jimmie the critic who shows up trying to say no. That's what differentiates me and what I do from others who can do the same. I'm going to say, how do we make this thing successful with this group of people the way we want to do it? Okay, we're definitely doing it. so we know that. Jimmy's not here to say yes or no.
That.
Here's the best way to do it. Here's the best way to set it up. Here's who you should talk to. Here's what we should look at quarterly. Here's what we should look at monthly. We should keep this team on for a year. We should make sure we learn everything about this business before we just release you into the wild on your own.
That's good. So I'm sure that does come with some tough conversations. But I guess with that relationship building and building that rapport, it's like, I trust you.
Yep.
I trust what you're saying to be true. So that's good, man. That's good. Well, hopefully we've given a lot of information today, and hopefully some people have been able to take some things away from it. What I like to do on the podcast is I'm going to give you this marker, and I'm going to blow up this balloon. And when I blow up the balloon, what I want you to write on it is a word or a phrase that you feel prevents people from taking that first step to go and chase their dreams. So Mookie started somewhere, Floyd started somewhere, but a lot of people never get that start. So I want you to think about that and write that on this balloon, and then I'm going to take this pen and pop it, and we're going to take the life out of that thing. I took my little girl swimming yesterday, and I had to blow up her floaties, and I think it took all my lungs.
So I didn't do anything. I'm just struggling to open the marker. No excuse. So the word I wrote is actually a bit of a shot out joke and probably grammatically incorrect as well. As an attorney, yes. So I wrote self-inactualization. And my mom always says that, oh, that person's not self-actualized. Or they're not self-actualized, or their failure to be self-actualized is why they are responding in that way. Why they hate, why they don't want to celebrate, why they don't want to see someone move beyond them, or why they won't move beyond their current circumstances. And self-actualization is understanding oneself, one's worth, one's value outside of the context of comparison.
That's good. Golly. I feel like I might stifle that point. What do you mean when you say outside of comparison?
So one's appleness cannot affect another's orangeness, to kind of talk to my boy Bishop Joseph Warren Walker III. So it's understanding that I am so comfortable being the apple and not the orange, and not thinking about the orange or the grape or the banana or the watermelon, that I fail to be the best apple. I am who I am, and I'm going to continue building and creating and growing as an apple. Even though you are an orange, I am in this situation. I might desire to have some of the things you have, or to wield some of the gifts, skills, and talents you wield. But your having them does not make me envious, jealous, or stifle my ability to do what I should be doing and to release what I should be releasing into the world. And I think it's important to realize that, being self-actualized means I don't have to have that fear of failure. I don't have to wonder if someone's going to judge me when I go and do this thing. I don't have to wonder if someone's going to throw my past at me when I embark upon something positive for my future. I don't worry about that. Come what may, I'm okay with me, and I'm gonna keep moving. Because often people will remind you of a failure when you're pursuing a success. Well, it's just to say, hey, if I'm self-actualized, I acknowledge that failure, but I learned X, Y, and Z from it. I acknowledge that I didn't nail every one of these relationships. Like, I acknowledge that someone provides more services to that person than I do. But how do I connect with that person and try to get that person even more clients? Because they must be cold. They're doing more than I'm doing for this person. So look, you gotta have the juice. So me introducing you into another relationship can only help me. Versus saying, man, how do I eliminate some of what you do so I can get some more?
So I can get some more.
Exactly. That's a self-actualization thing. You put me through this person. How do I connect with that person? Because if they're connected to you, I better jump on it. Think about a meeting I'll have coming up with a gentleman named Rod Spain. Well, Barrington Gist, financial advisor at Morgan Stanley, who is the person who connected me to Mookie Betts, said, hey, we need to send Truxton Trust and Rod Spann an operating agreement for this entity for Mookie. So when I sent it to Rod, I looked at Rod's background, 30 years in banking and wealth management. I said, man, I need to let Rod know that I admire and appreciate what he's done and would love to get some of his time. He sends me a message back immediately that says, I was thinking the same thing. So now we'll meet Thursday and discuss who knows what. But his 30 years to my 7, I can't help but win in that conversation. And I think it's more so just me knowing, okay, when I affirm the greatness in someone else and try to connect with it, there's all benefit. It's all positive, all opportunity. And that's really what I mean by self-actualization, not worrying about putting a thing out there for fear of what might come back.
Just be a good apple.
There it is.
Be a good apple. All right, cool deal. Well, we're gonna take the life out of this thing.
Boom.
All gone. I appreciate it, man. Is there a place where people can find you, reach out? I know you're doing some high-level business. You're a recluse on social media. So if people want to just send you a thank you for the interview or just reach out and see more what you're doing, can they do that?
Sure. So I would just say, look, email me at jstrong@bakerdonaldson.com. And that's Donaldson like Donaldson Pike, DONELSON. So jstrong@bakerdonaldson.com. When I reply back, you'll have both of my cell phone numbers and we'll connect.
Cool deal. I appreciate it, bro.
Yes, sir.
Good deal, man.